Hello, everyone. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County, and I'm going to start this off. It's a very significant day in the Brockton housing community, and I have to say the sun came up this morning after that horrible Red Sox loss last night, and we certainly see projects like this as the sun coming up for our neighborhoods. I just want to mention a couple of the groups that are represented here that have been very involved in the foreclosure issue here in Brockton. First of all, Mayor Balzotti's foreclosure task force, the code enforcement team in Brockton, neighborhood housing services in their mitigation efforts, and the Attorney General's Home Corps, and the receivership program. Now, this new tool that we'll be announcing today, which is a distressed property manager who's going to be helping taking property that has been foreclosed upon and put it back on the market to help stabilize neighborhood, is a very important part of this. So I just want to mention all along the way, Mayor Balzotti has been very involved in this in terms of continuing the task force and tremendous personal involvement. And the numbers have been dropping significantly. We every month report those numbers. The number of foreclosure notices and deeds in Brockton have dropped precipitously over the last 4 years, and the city's been doing a great job against some very difficult circumstances. And I also want to thank Attorney General Coakley. She's worked very closely with registers of deeds across Massachusetts as well as cities and towns, and it is very much poetic justice that this fight is taking what national banks have taken advantage of and begin to stabilize these properties with money from that settlement procedure. So it's a significant improvement going forward, and it's positive for all of the city. So I'd like to introduce next, who's going to introduce some of the elected officials, I understand, Robert Jenkins, who's the Director of Housing for the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. Thanks, Robert. Thank you,
Thank you, folks. First, let me tell John thank you for the introduction. I also like to just acknowledge a couple of folks here. State Representative Michael Brady. I have City Councilwoman standing behind him, Michelle Dubois. I'd like to go ahead and introduce or just acknowledge. John stated that this was a real, how should I say, a real team effort led by the mayor's office. I remember when I first started, and she was just a councilwoman at the time, and she came, and we knew Brockton had a serious issue with foreclosed property and distressed property. It was also the Brockton Housing Partnership members who also came and talked to me when I first got hired here and took the position as Director of Housing. And they had been working on this problem about 2 years, 3 years, even before I started. The receivership program itself, in its inception, Brockton was really in its infancy and actually looking at that program or that statute and taking advantage of it. Communities like Springfield, Worcester, Boston have been doing it for about 20, 25 years. However, we needed another tool in order to address the distressed property in our neighborhoods because it was really destabilizing a lot of our neighborhoods. As you can look around here, when we first started this house 2 years ago, and TRI, the Resource Inc., the Housing Partnership, Neighborhood Housing Services, a number of team players, and code enforcement, especially code enforcement. And the thing is I always say, for a city of almost 100,000, we have a code enforcement team of really 2 people. The Board of Health, the Building Department, and the Police Department. It's kind of amazing that we really do have to build the capacity for code enforcement because a city of this size should have more than just 2 or 3 people doing code enforcement. But the key here is that we looked at this particular neighborhood. We looked at another neighborhood down on the north side, Goddard Highland neighborhood. And at that time, I remember Steve coming down when we were looking at Goddard Highland neighborhood and going through some houses there where there were like 15 foreclosed properties on this one street. And Steve was walking through it with us, Steve Merschelak, and we're working with Dan Lesh now But I remember Steve walking through and just saying, geez, okay, we thought we had issues in New Bedford, and yeah, we do, but we need to spend a little more attention here in Brockton, and that's exactly what we did. Through the Redevelopment Authority, the receivership program, and all those partners that John mentioned, I mentioned earlier, and I'm sure the mayor mentioned a few more, it really took a real effort just to make an impact in this particular neighborhood, an impact in Goddard Highland. I advise you folks, if you know Brockton, go down to the Goddard Highland area, Highland Street, Newberry Street. You'll see the impact that we've also made there as well. But I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Please tour this house. I also like to thank Eunice D. Andrade. She was not the first community restoration program, but by far, as you can see from her house, which I wish we would have finished today, it's beautiful. And the thing is when we came out here on Saturday and we were doing work and having actually the kids come out and actually help us clean up, everybody on here was outside looking and cleaning up their yards, which is exactly what you want. You want people to take a hold of their neighborhood, a hold of their street, and kind of do it themselves. And that's what we did here, you know. I don't see anyone from the Housing Authority here as well, but they're actually building a single family property on that lot there that they acquired through the Redevelopment Authority, where they're going to build a single family house. So we are making an impact. We are targeting neighborhoods that are really distressed, really need the assistance, and making a true impact in the neighborhood. But at this point in time, I just want to go ahead and introduce our mayor, my mayor, Honorable Linda Belzotti.
So if Robert ever invites you to go take a tour someplace, don't go with him. No, honestly, the work that's been done in the Goddard Highland area and in this area really would not have been done without the foresight of Robert and the folks from the Housing Authority and a lot of people who worked really hard and have made tremendous efforts. And the saying is you take it block by block, and that's what we've done, and it's been very successful. I do want to just recognize two other people that are here, Steve Pike and Carol Delory. Carol serves on the Foreclosures Task Force. Steve Pike is a representative from a bank who helps us with our Brockton Buy Brockton program, one of the investment the bank's involved, but he also helps us with our homelessness task force. And we have just been joined by Tom Tebow from the Housing Authority. So thank you, Tom, for coming. So thank you all for being with us. And it is a pleasure to once again welcome Attorney General Martha Coakley and all of our partners to the city today to see firsthand how we are continuing to fight the foreclosure crisis, how we're combating blight, and how we are revitalizing our community one house, one street, and one neighborhood at a time. This is work that matters to our city, it matters to our families, to the taxpayers, and it is work that I've been proud to lead as mayor of the city of Brockton. As many of you know, and as those of us all in the city know, Brockton has been hard hit by the foreclosure crisis, but we continue to make strides to reverse that process and to strengthen our neighborhoods. Our record and the progress we've made with the two examples that are right here today would not have been possible without support and partnership of all of the local agencies that have been mentioned, by working one-on-one with individuals and families, as well as state and federal governments for providing programs and financial support that have made a real difference in our city. And these are two examples right here. Many of the programs, the federal neighborhood stabilization funding administered through the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, the satellite home core office that was opened in our downtown, thank you, Madam Attorney General, our abandoned property registry, and the ongoing work of our mayor's foreclosure task force, led by our Register of Deeds, John Buckley, have been effective, and they will be even more effective through the DPIR program. And I believe that part of the initial thoughts about that program came from a conversation from our Register of Deeds with the Attorney General. So thank you very much. This is one of the many examples of the good things that we're doing to bring about a positive change in this community. I want to thank you, Attorney General Coakley, and everyone here today for your tremendous partnership in making these successes possible. We really, without your partnership, the individuals that you have that serve on the receivership program, would never have gotten this far. So thank you on behalf of the entire city. These are the things, absolutely. Absolutely. This is what matters to people. It's what matters to Brockton families. What matters to our community, and more importantly, it also is what matters to our economy. We know that our work is not done yet, and I know that the Attorney General will continue to hear me advocate for each and every resident of our great city, and she always listens with open ears and an open heart, so I'm very grateful to that. I deeply appreciate the work that's been done so far, and I'm confident that the partnerships that we have made will continue to move our city forward. And before I conclude my remarks, I just want to recognize State Representative Claire Cronin, who joined us also. So she's one of our partners and want to make sure she's recognized. But now it is my great, great pleasure to introduce to you someone who has been a great friend of the city and a great friend of mine on a wide range of key issues. She is a woman who has dedicated her career to public safety, protecting children, and standing up for the homeowners and consumers of the Commonwealth. It's my privilege to introduce to you the Attorney General for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Martha Coakley.
Yes. So thank you, Linda, for that, and thank you for the work that you've done since you've been mayor before that, because I know your heart is in Brockton. I first, I think, met you after mayor at the Jingle Bell race, right? And so I have that image of you celebrating, and we've come down for good events like this and some tougher events, but I know your mayor is with Brockton in the good times and the bad times, and she's done a terrific job, and she's been a terrific partner for us. So thank you for that, and thank you for this project. One of my favorites, one of my favorite recycling projects is taking properties like this and seeing what great work we can do when we work together. And you see all the partners it's taken, including particularly for this new project. John Buckley, I have to tell you that our work around the problems that came out of the foreclosure crisis were many, and they were complicated, and we've sat down with the registers. John has been a leader among them, saying these are things we need help with, this is how we can do better. And it was frankly John's idea that we take some of the monies we've been able to get in the settlement and work to do exactly what you see behind us here. Take these properties, work with all of you where the work needs to be done, where the money should go, and I think that's a success story. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do, but we couldn't do it without you and all of our partners here. We've got some folks from my office. I know we've got a lot of folks from the community who are here, and I really appreciate it. I want to recognize, and I'm really glad that they're here, Officer Ullman just arrived. There's Scott. And a particular guest we have today, his mom is Judy O'Connor, who lived in this house and whose grandmother and great-grandmother lived in this house behind us. And so that just shows you, I think, what you can do when you think about the roots that Brockton has and the history, but most importantly, the future. And so, although we've been working on this, we're just getting started. And Judy, I'm so glad you could join us today. I was really excited to know that you could come. She came up from Florida to join us for this, so I hope you have a great trip. And it looks pretty good, doesn't it? It looks fabulous. Well, last time I saw it, it was all boarded up. And so we have done a little bit of magic here, and it's magic that we can continue to work throughout Brockton, and we're going to continue to do it. As you know, because you're here, these abandoned properties drain resources, they attract copper stripping, they attract sometimes drug users. Whatever the problem is, it's not good when properties are foreclosed upon, abandoned. They go off the tax rolls. So we are turning that around. As John said, we are taking the resources from that settlement to turn that tide around, to get these houses back to be homes, not just abandoned houses, to get them back operating. And as you noted, Mayor Belzotti, we've seen this in other cities too, in other neighborhoods. Everybody else starts to look around about, well, what does my yard look like? What does my home look like? And we've seen block by block, home by home really, being able to turn the neighborhood around. That's what our cities and towns were built on, and that's what we're going to bring back to Brockton. So I'm happy to be able to work on what's really a neighborhood stabilization project, homeowner by homeowner. And the Brockton, I see BRA, of course, I think there's two BRAs, and the important one today is the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. So I want to give thanks to them for working with us. In these two homes behind us, and thank you again, Eunice, for showing us your beautiful home and how it's been redone and is a happy home for her. This difference is just remarkable. It's a little bit of a miracle that we're going to continue. Our abandoned housing initiative and our Home Corps program have worked to make these the reality that you see today. We're working on 226 properties across the state and 18 properties in Brockton. But as I said, we're just getting started. And the new project that we talked about today, the DPIR, we're trying to see ahead on problems that we can deal with before they get to be major eyesores. And we're pleased, as John said, to be partners with him today. The City of Brockton's been awarded a grant of $100,000 over the next 2-year period through our newest program, the Distressed Properties Identification and Revitalization Program. And this is going to be used to identify and prioritize those properties in the communities and work with the owners to make sure that they're returned to productive residential use as quickly as possible. We want to bring them into a state of good repair so they're revitalized before they become blighted. And we believe we can have success doing that. So we're happy to be able to work with you here. We see this in Brockton and across the state where we're able to turn this around. We know that Eunice purchased the house as a first-time home buyer, and this house behind me will be sold to a first-time home buyer as well. We have in Brockton successfully rehabilitated already 50 properties, an overall property value increase of more than $1.2 million, and that's substantial, I think. I'd call it a good start, and we're going to keep up the work. And so we're going to go for a tour to the property behind me. I again want to thank everybody who's here because it takes our reps, and thank you, Mike Brady, and we've just been joined by Claire, acknowledged our state reps who do a great job for you on the Hill as well as in your communities. It's a pleasure to work with them. Your local officials who have made this happen. We've got Steve Marshallek and Dan Less from our New Bedford office, Brockton office, so don't hesitate to call on them. They're here to work with you. And Lauren Model from our Home Corps program, who does work those miracles every day to keep 15,000 people in their homes to date, who are avoiding unnecessary foreclosures. So we're going to keep up that work. I think we don't turn this economy around fully until we get this work done, and happy to be here with you today. So thanks, everybody. And I think we're going to do a tour. Great.